What we are going to discuss today is how to submit your time in labor, how to submit an absence request, and how to approve or deny time in labor, as well as requests, absence requests. So we're going to start with how to submit time in labor. So a few points that I would like to discuss, just important information for you to know. When you are going into ctcLink, which again, we will show you in just a few minutes on how to do this step by step, you are going to want to use the Enter Time tile to submit your work hours. You will only be paid for time that you enter using the time tile found on your employee self-service page. As an employee, if you do not enter your time, you will not get paid for time. And then it is your responsibility to input your time before or on the last day of the pay period. Time must be entered in quarter-hour increments, and timesheets must be submitted and approved by the payroll deadline in order to be paid. Late timesheets will not be accepted and will not be processed until the next pay period. If you forget your time after the pay period has ended and the time cards are locked, the system does lock midnight on the last day of the pay period, for example, the 15th and the 30th of the month, you must report it to your supervisor. You will be paid for those hours on the next pay period. This will result in a delay in your pay of the hours not input for up to 2 weeks. So no emergency checks will be issued. And if you have any problems with your signed-in credentials, usernames, or passwords, please email the help desk at LWTech.edu. So the help desk and IT, those are the folks who will be sending out the information, I believe, starting later today on how to activate your account. So to proceed to logging in with ctcLink, you're going to go to this website, gateway.ctcLink, and the preferred browser here is either Chrome or Firefox. You do not want to use Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge. You will enter your ctcLink ID. It's what LWTech is going to be calling your EMPL ID. So you will enter that here, click Next. This will be the next screen where you will enter your password, click Verify. That will take you to this screen. So it will look like this. You'll have LWTech right there, so you'll know you're in the right spot. You will select the HCM self-service. So just a little note, using the Enter Time option, if you are entering time for a full week or an entire pay period at once, you can use the Enter Time tile. Enter Time does not allow you to save a timesheet, so it must be completed and submitted in the same session. So if you need to enter time for a day at a time, you'll use the Report Time tile, but you actually won't be using this Report Time tile. Specifically, as an employee, you will be entering your time where it says Enter Time. But just note, you have to do it a week at a time or the full pay period. And then you have to submit. So we're going to go through that now. The time tile. So step 4, once you've entered your EMPL ID, your password, you've gone to the HCM self-service, this is the step that you're going to be at. Time tile. So you're in the employee self-service section. You'll see time right here. You'll click on that and it will take you to a page that looks similar to this. So in here, if you are an employee with multiple positions at the college, you will have a drop-down menu here. If you only have one position with the college, it will be grayed out. So there won't be an arrow right here for you to actually choose anything else. It'll just be your only job position. But if you work at LWTech and another sister college, and you have different positions at both of those colleges, you will have those choices here. Or another position at LWTech, both choices here. So you're going to make sure that you select the correct position, and then you will click apply once you've selected the correct position. Then you will enter your time tile right here where it says enter time. So as I've mentioned, the report time tile, which is right here, you do not want to use that. That is a daily reporting function, and it's just, that's not how we want time to be reported. You will want to use the one above, enter time. So then you will see this page, that time entry page displays. So this is going to display 7 days at a time, starting with the first day of the pay period. You can switch weeks using these arrows right here. And it will, again, it'll give you the dates that it's going through. And you can see here when you enter time, it'll turn green. So hours entered. So your default schedule will display with the scheduled number of hours on each day. So you will adjust hours if necessary. And that's if you have an alternate schedule, right? But for the majority of us, our work schedule is 8 hours Monday through Friday. So when time is reported, the bar will turn green. So you'll want to see Tuesday here for that example, right? So the regular is selected here. This is a drop-down menu. We'll get to the options here in a little bit. And you have 8 hours that you worked on Tuesday. So it's turned green. That means it's good. Days without time reported will display as a red bar. So right here, Wednesday, this is an example as it's missing time. So if reported hours are less than the scheduled hours for a day, a portion of the bar will display green and the remainder will display red. You'll see Thursday, right? So we reported 6 hours here, where our regular schedule is, hold on one second. So Thursday, as they say up here, is the example. They put in that they worked 6 hours, where the normal schedule is 8 hours. So you can see it partially turned green, and then there's a little bit of red as the remainder.
Katie, there's a question in the chat from Katrina saying that, will this be different for people that work hours before and after 12 a.m. daily?
No. It'll be the same. Folks, your schedules are in the system, will be entered into the system. So if reported hours are more than scheduled hours for the day, again, a portion of the bar will display hashes. So see Friday as the example here. So this is reporting it as incorrect. There is a comment button when you're entering a time. You can see it down here. It's right below. But you do not have to fill anything in there. That's just an option if you would like. But it is not mandatory, so you can still submit your time without filling in a comment. So once you all of your hours have been entered, you're going to select submit, which is up here in the right-hand corner. So note if you're adding time and try to move to another page before clicking submit, you will see this error message. It'll pop up on your screen that says you have unsaved data on this page. Select OK to go back and save, or cancel to continue, which means it's going to erase what you've entered. So please make sure to submit. So once submitted, the days you entered time on will turn green and will be processed by the system overnight. Your supervisor will receive a request to approve in their system. before the payroll deadline, you can update and resubmit your timesheet. Supervisors only need to approve once at the end of the pay period. So time is assumed to be 24 hours if no AM or PM is indicated. So for example, 8 AM can be entered as either 8 or 8 AM in the timesheet. Also, for example, 2 PM can be entered as either 14 or 2 PM. So military time or standard time. You want to make sure though, when you are entering, you stick with one way of reporting. You can either use military time or use the AM or PM. If you mix between, it usually errors out because it shows that it shows it as an error, because a lot of times it will take you from an AM to another AM, which is usually well past your scheduled shift. So viewing your payable time. So after time has been submitted and processed overnight, you will be able to view your payable time, including any holidays, in the time summary tile. So in the time summary, you choose payable time at the top of the page to see a summary of your payable time for the pay period. So this is what that looks like. It shows you the week. Payable time right here. Changing time. So if you've made an error or you've filled your timesheet out ahead of time and need to make a change, you can enter a new time on the day that needs to be altered. You just, again, select submit and OK. You can also remove time. I want to go back up here to show you how to do that. So you see these plus and minus tabs. So if there is a day that I need to change, if I have like there's a day that I need to change, I can actually just go in and erase that. But I can also use these plus and minus tabs to do that. Yeah. So select the minus on the right-hand side of the screen to remove the row from the day. And then it will ask you whether or not you want to delete it. So you answer yes or no. And yes, delete, and then submit OK. So for holidays, when you are not working on a paid holiday, you do not want to enter time on that day. The system automatically has that programmed information in it. So you don't want to enter regular time on a holiday. You know, as the 21st was a holiday, when we're going into the system next week to enter our time, we do not want to put 8 hours, just again, if you work a regular 8-hour day, you do not want to put that in there as the system. You will get this error. It'll tell you that that date is a holiday. If you worked it, you'll hit OK, and then your supervisor will have to enter that for you. So is it automatically marked as green is a question. Tim, it is automatically marked as green if you've entered in what your regular schedule is. Your regular scheduled hours. It'll automatically mark as green.
Katie, I have a question.
Yes.
So I work part-time, and my hours on, say, holidays are a little wonky sometimes. So like, let's say yesterday was a holiday, everybody else gets credited with 8 hours of holiday time. I get credited with 4 hours of holiday time, but typically then I have to take an additional hour or so of vacation time to accommodate for the fact that my hours don't exactly line up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Is that the same? Good. Thank you.
Yes, it will be the same, except
okay.
It will be, you'll have to request that vacation or whatever leave you're using with the new absence management system.
Okay.
So,
I can't just like use it as a recording thing that I've been doing. Okay, makes sense.
Yes,
all right.
Sorry, it will look a little bit different.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So when to request leave. So you can request leave to both an upcoming leave or to report leave already taken. So that is something that is different with our system, where I know the folks in this Zoom call have vacation, sick leave, and personal leave available. So if I anticipate that I am taking a vacation in June, I do not have to wait until, let's say, the first week in June. I don't have to wait until that pay period is over to report that time off when that timesheet is due. I can come into this system, make my request. I could do that today if I had access. So it's great. So you can request leave in advance when possible. Please report any leave taken within the pay period. So the 1st to the 15th of the month and the 16th to the end of the month. So if you're off sick, you'll just want to make sure that you're going back and reporting that. Leave requests must be made in accordance with the applicable terms of your collective bargaining agreement. So again, being mindful that you do all accrue vacation, sick, and you receive that personal leave specifically once you've passed that probationary period. And then leave requests do not replace the need to stay in touch with your division administrator and sometimes the administrative assistant if they are delegating the approvals for that or delegated to approve those. And then please contact your supervisors directly if you have any questions or concerns about any leave that you anticipate coming up. And that is due to if you need a shift covered and whatnot, they're the folks who are going to help with that. So again, we're starting with this link. We're going to log back into ctcLink. Again, that EMPL ID, click next, enter your password, verify. And we're still going back to the HCM self-service. So again, this is how we get to our employee self-service. We're going back to time, so that should hopefully be easy to remember. To report time and to request time off, we both use time as the tile. So right here is where we were previously with the enter time. So the requesting absence is right below that. You'll see here we can do a number of things. We can cancel absence requests. We can view requests that we've made, and we can check our balances. But right now we're going to focus on this request absence. So we would select this tile. And this is where you will again have a drop down similar to TLR. So you're going to want to put down or select which leave it is that you are taking. So again, if you have multiple positions within the college, you will want to make sure that you are choosing the appropriate job in that drop down section. And then you're going to select the absence names. So, you know, your personal leave, your sick leave, your vacation leave. So what's the difference between 260 and ctcLink? 260 is LWTech's college number code within SBCTC. So you'll see that throughout the system on a regular basis. CTC is any type of leave that all of the colleges within SBCTC offer. So it was a global leave. So they were able to add this for all of the colleges, and then we just had to give them information as far as the other leaves that we had available. So more often than not, what you will be using is, again, the personal leave, sick leave, vacation leave. So that's where, again, you'll select that absence name. Optionally, you can select an absence reason. I will show you that over here, where it says reason. You can select to put something here. Again, you do not have to, unless you are taking FMLA or paid FML. So the paid FML, that's through Employment Security Department, the state of Washington. That is the only time that you have to put something in that reason code, is if you are on these 2 leaves. And again, this is where you can see that. If you're taking personal leave, vacation, sick leave, and you're just taking that as an employee, not on FMLA or paid FML, then you do not have to enter anything in that reason code. So I'm taking personal leave. So here I'm going to enter that. I'm going to select the start date. So I am taking the day off on 3/11. So that's going to be my start date. It's also going to be my end date. And I am taking 8 hours of leave because that is my regular shift. I don't have to put anything in the comments here. You can opt to take partial days, half days, but right now what we are going to do is we are going to focus and review how to submit time as a full day. So again, we're choosing the job title that's applicable to the leave. So for most of us, that is just going to be the one choice. The absence name, personal leave. Again, I do not have to have a reason here. And the start date, my 6 hours. I would select an end date here. And I would enter that. And I don't have to put comments here. I can if I would like, but I do not have to. And then I would select submit. And I would be done. Real quick, I do want to see, it is cut off here to go on the PowerPoint, but you can see you have balance information below those requests. So if you're making a request in advance, you do want to go through and monitor up until that point, your leave balances. If I request time off in June, my supervisor can approve that, but I have to make sure that in June, I still have enough time. It doesn't deduct right away once you make that request. It only deducts that time once that pay period has actually passed. So if you do, that's why it's best to still make the leave requests within the pay periods. But you and your supervisor should definitely monitor if you have that leave available, if you do make it several months in advance. So partial day absence. So if you're taking less than that 8 hours, if you're a 8 hour a day scheduled employee. So we're going to use 6 hours here as our example. So in the reason drop-down menu, again, appropriate reason, you're going to select your start date and end date, just like over here. But what you're going to do is, here where you see it says partial days, this is where you're going to select over here. And it's going to look specifically like this. You'll get options. So the first option is whether or not all of the days that you are taking are half days. So it's either yes or no. So let's say for some reason, I'm just deciding to take 3 days worth of vacation, but I'm working half days. I would mark all of those as yes. Or what I can do is if I am taking a few days worth of personal leave, and it's just to take a few hours a day, which would be less than my half day. I'm going to, like over here where it says partial days. So yes, all of those days, I want them to be partial, but it isn't a half day. It's going to be however many hours I choose, which is less than my half day. So if I need to take an hour for an appointment or 2 hours for an appointment, I can do that. I'm choosing it to be a partial day, a duration of 3 hours. So some options we have with that partial day, you can either have it be none if no part of your time off is going to be partial day. You can mark it as the end day only will be a partial day. You can mark it as your start date only would be a partial day. Your start and end of that time off, partial day, or all days as partial days. So again, to submit that, what we're doing is we're having sick leave, absence. I'm not going to put anything there because I don't need to. My date where it starts, my date where it ends. This will populate. I would select submit. So it will tell me here as of what date I have how many hours of accrued information or accrued leave. And then I can view all of my balances down here and view all of my requests down here in case I need to just review quickly. And then once you've set submit, it goes to your supervisor. They get an email letting them know that you've requested that, as well as in their ctcLink section, they see that they have requests.
Is when we do have time off requested, will that be reflected in the timesheet already, or will we need to enter our time off there as well?
It gets reflected in your timesheet. You won't see it, but you don't enter anything there. You only enter your time worked in your timesheet. Who or how will the regular schedule be set? Yes, so the regular schedule will be set by the supervisor, Sterling. Good question. Yeah, how do you know when it's been approved, denied? You get an email flow. Yeah, how long ahead of time do you need to submit the requests? So there isn't a need to, as far as how long ahead of time you need to submit those requests as far as HR and payroll is concerned. That might be something that you'd want to discuss with your supervisor. That's why we at the very beginning mentioned like wanting to make sure you're still in contact with your supervisor. They will be able to kind of guide you on that. But as far as payroll goes, you only need to do it when you're reporting that pay period. If you end up working on a day you're normally off, that's okay. The system can still report that. That's just something that your supervisor will have to approve. They get notified. Yes, Ali asked the question, is there a way to set an alternative supervisor if your supervisor is currently out? So there isn't a way for you to do that as the employee, but what supervisors can do is they have a way of delegating. So in TLR, payroll was able to add an alternate supervisor. But what your supervisor will do in their ctLink setup as a supervisor, they will be going and they will, if they're going to be off, they can delegate who any requests would go to for that period of time that they're going to be off. So someone would still be able to approve or deny your leave or time. In Maya, so how do you report overtime? So anything over the 40 hours automatically gets calculated as overtime. So it's automatically reported as overtime. So you only need to go in and put in your regular time, however many hours. If it's 10 hours a day for 5 days, those extra hours over 40 get converted to overtime.
Yeah, so what if the pay period ends like on a Monday and then you start the next pay period on Tuesday, but you work more than 40 hours between the two pay periods? Will that next pay period calculate that there's overtime? Does that make sense?
If I'm understanding you correctly, so the pay periods aren't changing, right? So it's still going to be that Sunday through Saturday. So it would still be calculated 40 hour, anything over 40 hours for that week.
Okay, even if the pay period was on 1 week and the rest of the days were on another pay period? For instance, say Monday, the 28th was the last day of the pay period, right? And so you put in your normal hours, and then Tuesday you start your new pay period and you work all the way through Friday, but you work overtime because of the Monday is part of the 40 hours in the week.
So it's calculated week by week. I don't think I'm understanding how. So
Because we've had pay periods where it's ended on a Monday, yes?
it's
Where we
Sunday through
entered on-
Saturday.
Oh, okay, because I was thinking we've had periods where we've, the last pay period the last day we've entered in a pay period would be like on a Monday. And then
That's when we've had to go in and report time, yes.
okay,
Yeah, and if
So
I'm
it-
understanding your question correctly, is the total hours for the Sunday, even from the previous pay period, would count towards that 40 hours for the Tuesday through Saturday. So you could not report 40 hours on Tuesday through Saturday plus 8 hours for that Monday. Right?
correct.
I still don't know
So
that. Yeah.
say, let's say Sunday is the 29th.
Okay,
So Sunday and Monday are on one pay period, starting on the 1st on Tuesday through the 5th on Saturday. That's a second pay period.
correct.
The
Yes.
total from the 29th to the 5th cannot exceed 40 hours without accruing overtime, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And the timesheet will detect the hours from the 2 previous days on the previous pay period and won't let you enter or give you an error message if you try and go over those 40 hours.
You aren't going to get an error message.
Okay.
Right? It's just, it automatically calculates.
Okay.
The system automatically calculates overtime.
Would we expect to see a reject of the time card if we are over those 40 hours and we need to go back in and declare the extra hours as overtime?
No. So you're
Okay.
just going to report your time worked, right? So
Okay.
if you worked overtime, we're paying you overtime,
All right.
right? So, yes. I think the concern is the difference between the week, the 15th and the 30th pay period.
Yeah, that was the 29th and 30th versus 1st through 5th.
Got it.
It's all the same week, but it's
Yeah.
2 pay periods.
And the supervisor ends up approving it anyways for the overtime.
Right. So
Gotcha.
if you're working it, Robert, it would be a discussion with you and your supervisor anyway,
Gotcha.
right? It should be something. It should be something that you and your supervisor are discussing before it happens anyway. But yes, if you work overtime, you should be paid for your overtime.
Right.
And no, nothing is changing.
So in the current system, we would actually have to put hours we worked and hours that were overtime. In this system, we're just going to put, if we worked 10 hours in a day and that's more than 40 hours for that week, then it's going to calculate 2 hours of overtime automatically.
Correct.
Gotcha.
There's a question in the chat here from Jen Evora. Supervisors get notified each and every time I have a shift change I input. If I just update my timesheet at the end of the pay period right before submitting, would that mean only one tiny email goes to them?
Yeah. And so, Jen, not everybody has different shifts necessarily. If it's just a one-off, it's not something we have to go into the system and enter. Your supervisor is just going to get that email that your time's been submitted. So similar, I think, to Robert's question, right? If you're working overtime, that isn't necessarily a shift change, that's just overtime. Where we do have folks who are on different shifts in our safety and security office, as well as custodial and maintenance, where they have specific shifts. so that they are scheduled for. So that those are entered, and some of our ISTs. The difference between straight overtime, I think we have that somewhere. Give me 1 second. Straight overtime is if that is all to be recorded as overtime. So you wouldn't be reporting that, Tim. You just let the system do that. Any other questions? And then I can go into how to approve.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, sorry.
I used to have to report leave without pay. Are you saying I don't do that anymore? I just report when I work?
Correct.
Okay. Thanks.
So you will have an option for leave without pay. I believe that is. I believe that will be an option, but Elaine, I want to get back to everyone on how that is an option. So we'll make sure that we get that information out to folks on how to report that. Let's see. Oh, here we go. So you can, let me share my screen again. Here we go. This is where you will report that leave without pay. It is CTC leave without pay, and that's universal across all the colleges. So you would still request that if you didn't have time available. Any other questions? So FMLA, there is not a designated type that you have to use. That's a reason you're using your sick or your vacation. So again, let me share my screen again. So again, the absence I'm choosing is either personal, sick, or vacation. It's just the reason I am taking it is for FMLA or PFML. And we have to record that for tracking purposes because there's only so much allowed, so much time allowed. Washington specific is that PFML. It's the same thing, or same reporting. Any other questions? And then I can move on for the how to approve or deny if you are supervising someone's timesheet.
I have one question. So with overtime, can you clarify, usually overtime has to be pre-approved, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then also, so at times if overtime isn't available, then there's a thing called comp time. Is that something that needs to be covered, or how would that work?
You have the option for the flexibility to, within that work week, flex your hours, but we don't have comp time in the system.
Okay, right. So we kind of had to sometimes do that in the past just with TLR. So, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, if there are no other questions, I can go into how to approve. And so for folks who are not supervising, you are able to drop off the call now and enjoy some time back. And thank you all for attending. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So if we are going through and we are approving time and labor for our employees, Again, we're going to log in the same way we have before. So again, the employee ID and password. We're still going to that HCM self-service. It's just the option is we will have a drop down here where we will have the choice between the employee self-service or manager self-service. And so we'll select the manager self-service. So you will have an extra tile here where you will see approvals. And so as folks on your team are submitting their timesheets or their absence requests, you will see this 0 starting to go up in numbers. So you'll select approvals. You can filter by your employees. So the pending approvals page displays. So you're going to select payable time right here on the left. And then you can select the employee who needs time approved. So you can filter up here where you can filter and actually search for specific employees, or all of them will list below. So the payable time does display for that employee, and this is what it's going to look like. It's going to show you their dates and their time worked. So this is an example. So you're going to review the submitted time for accuracy of both hours in the quantity and time section. So time reporting, quantity. So that way you can click on the individual lines or, scroll through whatever's easiest for you. You can either select individual lines or columns. You can make comments if you're selecting in here. If any lines cannot currently be approved, you will want to contact the employee to adjust and resubmit their time. So again, if you are unable to contact the employee, the manager may edit the employee's timesheet. Let's say for some reason I submit my time ahead of time because I'm going on vacation. So my supervisor would be able to enter time for me. So here is where we have time reporting codes. So normally we have our employees are only going to be reporting that regular time. Holiday pay, which is calculated at the system time that's already been approved. Straight overtime, it should only be used by employees who are assigned whose assigned work schedule is less than 40 hours a week to report hours worked over their normal schedule. And the remaining time codes, holiday worked, callback pay, should be only used in limited conditions with the manager's pre-approval. That's usually something you'll be working with payroll on as well to get a little more information onto how to use those ahead of time. And then the employees authorized for 2.5 for overtime and holiday per their CBA. So notes, when time is submitted by an employee, it will be processed by the system overnight, and the manager will receive a request to approve it in the system before the payroll deadline. The employee can update and resubmit their timesheet if the managers are denying it for any reason. Managers only need to approve time once at the end of the pay period. So, if your employees are making adjustments, feel free to wait until payroll submission needs to be done, just in case your employees need to update that at all. And here are the deadlines for you. Timesheets for a pay period can be submitted and approved multiple times if changes need to be made. And payroll encourages hourly and student employees to submit their time worked weekly. Managers can approve time as it is submitted. And they do not need to wait until the end of the pay period to approve.